Aviation Union members are protesting a proposed demolition of all agencies' office in Lagos State. Today on The Breakfast, we'll seek to understand what's going on and how it affects all of us.
Also on The Breakfast, Rivers United is the only Nigerian team in the CAF competition group stage. What does this mean for Nigerian football? We'll be speaking with a sports journalist this morning.
And as usual, we have our daily take of today's headlines on the front pages of the national dailies, so the analysis, in-depth analysis is at that. It's a beautiful Friday morning. It's the ultimate edition of The Breakfast right here on PlusTvAfrica. You're welcome. My name is Kofi Bartels.
I am Messi Boko. It reminds me of, wrestling and Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, wow.
Usually.
Messi, don't reveal your age. Don't reveal your age. Ultimate Warrior. We need to do a test, a DNA test on you to find out your real age. If it's your football age, you've been giving us all this while.
Well, I don't know what you mean, but of course I've actually heard of Ultimate Warrior, and then saying that reminds me, it's a Friday and it's okay to just sit back, relax, and have a great morning, whether or not you are at the office. But as always, we start off with the top trending. And Kofi, what's making it
Absolutely, Mercy. I must first of all say you're looking terrific this morning as always. Let's get to a trending segment. Mercy, it's interesting what's been going on. Yesterday we talked a little bit about what happened in Maiduguri when the Atiku Abubakar campaign train, stormed Borno State, the allegations and the rebuttals, but electoral violence, election-related violence is something that a lot of people are concerned about, and the questions we're asking ourselves then was where, is this what happened in Maiduguri a foretaste of what is to come ahead of the 2023 elections? What's going to be the situation? Will we have reduction of violence or what? Because it affects the turnout of people. Well, what we saw popping up on social media over the past 24 hours is nothing to give us any hope that, or increased hope rather, that there will be an election-free violence in violence-free election in Nigeria next year. The Independent National Electoral Commission has been grappling with floods that has sacked some of its offices across the country, taken over its offices across the country, and now they're having to vacate their office in Abeokuta South local government area of Ogun State, just here, not far from us in Lagos State. INEC, says that its office in Abeokuta South local government area of Ogun State, located at the Iyana Mortuary Road or Iyana Mortuary area of the metropolis, was scattered by fire early hours of Thursday. I'm sure while we're sitting here yesterday, the fire was still raging. You can see the pictures. That is an INEC office that doesn't look like an INEC office. The investigations revealed that the facility was set on fire by, in fact, a paper called the Vanguard sent its reporter there, and they found that the facility was set on fire by suspected hoodlums who scaled the perimeter fence, jumped into the premises and set the building on fire from the back. All right, about 8 of them, according to eyewitnesses. They are said to have, believe this or not, soaked loaves of bread. This bread that is going up in the market, they bought bread, probably agege bread, soak them in petrol.
Sure it's agege bread.
That's the one that will work. You can't use sliced bread for this kind of arson.
How do you know?
Because it's going to be sliced. You need something that can take the bread, or maybe bigger loaves, But they soak bread in petrol. I don't know. I've never thought about this before. Bread and petrol.
But the fact that Kofi, but the fact that you even know that you don't need sliced bread for all of this is worrisome.
I may be wrong, but I think my intuition is telling me they may need but they soak. I've never seen a marriage of bread and petrol. It's the first time. So basically, they soaked bread in petrol and threw that into the building at different points to light up the facility. So about 1 a.m., distress call was made to the police, according to Naira report, and the police we sort of mobilized detectives to the area. This is from a place called Ibarra, not far, Ibarra Division. So they mobilized detectives to the scene of a crime. And, they also contacted the fire service who put out the fire when they got to the place. So it's really sad. A lot of things were affected in that inferno, including the RAC or the registration area officer's office, the conference room, and all were affected by the inferno. I do not know if any permanent voter cards were affected there, but I'll leave it at that. The commissioner of INEC, the resident electoral commissioner of INEC in Ogun State, is described the incident as shocking. He says he's shocked about it. So that is where we are. But this background story will not be complete without looking at what the police are saying. According to the PPRO, Ogun State Police Public Relations Officer, he is promised to give more details of this as time goes on. But Mercy, think about it. Bread that is used as bomb is not something we always hear.
It's really unfortunate, Kofi, if you ask me. Very unfortunate, very saddening. It's not something that should be taken lightly, because this is a threat to democracy. An attack on, government facility, especially that facility or agency that's saddled with responsibility of conducting free, credible elections is a big issue. That's something we should be worried about, just as we have a few months before the elections. But the question has always been about whether or not we're proactive as a country or as a people being proactive. Now, this would not be the first time we've had an attack on, INEC facility or offices. We had, especially in the southeastern part of the country, there's been several attacks on INEC offices. And one would think that it would be very imperative, it would be, on top of priority list, checklist for INEC, the government, everyone, all hands to be on deck. Because as much as we say, okay, INEC is an agency or it's a government agency or it's a body that should conduct an elections, doesn't necessarily mean we would throw our hands and just wait for INEC to do everything. One would expect that we would have been proactive. We should be thinking about it, looking at the current situation of the country. It's not what it was, it's not what it is, 1999. You can't compare the security situation now to what happened in 1999, 1997, or thereabout, or even, 2019 or 2015. It's evolving. And so we should be thinking ahead of these persons. So what stops us from being proactive? At this point, one will be saying, hey, we will be thinking ahead of these persons before they bring it. They say, what's it called again? Attack or defense is the best form of it. So everyone would just expect that we should have been. These are sensitive materials. This is a sensitive document, however you want to put it. It's a very sensitive office. And I mean, looking at the pictures and looking at the office, you could see how it is. It looks like it's in an isolated part. Because if you look to the other corner of it, it looks like it's in one forest. And then that's an office there. Really, we can't continue like this if we want to have an elections in 2023. Because they are, enemies of the state or people who are fighting to ensure that the elections don't happen. And we have had several reports. Do we sit back and take it lightly? What are the security agencies doing? What are we really talking about? How do we secure, the offices? Do we even need to have these materials here? Can we, have it in different parts? Is there any way we can actually devise means of distributing these PVCs? What will then happen? Does this mean that these persons have been disenfranchised? We know some people would have relocated to Ogun State, and so therefore they would have applied to have a transfer of location so they can actually vote. So imagine that someone used to live in Lagos and then now they're in Ogun State. They probably would have done a transfer at the time where the continuous registration exercise was ongoing, transferring from Lagos to Ogun State. Now one would just expect that we should be up and doing. We should be above, these persons and these criminal elements, if you like to call them. But we seem to be lagging behind, and they seem to be, forging ahead, really. Nigeria, we are known to have the best brains, best resources, best everything. And then why are we, just sitting back? Because it feels like they're we should be up and doing, predict what should happen, think ahead, think out of the box, and just prevent all of these issues from happening. So what's the way forward now? That's the question. What becomes of 65,000 or thereabout persons whose PVCs have not been collected? What is really going to happen? And all of this equipment, is there going to be, a plan B? Is there a plan B? That's the question. Falling back to the database, are we going to be able to print out the PVCs if we have a database? Because of course, this is actually technology now. And so if we have all of this, can we reprint them? Do we find a way? So I'm thinking that it's time for everyone, 36 states, including the FCT. We need to, sit up and be proactive. We don't need to wait for things to happen before we react. And that's always the case. It's really saddening. And imagine that there's an attack across the entire federation on, the offices. Then it therefore means that, people would just be, it would just be nothing, really. I'm worried, and I'm sure that, everyone should be worried, including the government, and we should act. And that's why you have government already, to be governing the affairs of the people. But we need to move away from that, Kofi. I'm sure that you have something.
Yes, I would just say, apart from, and I mean, you're right. The security agencies have to be proactive. They have to make sure that they think ahead, think at least 2 steps ahead of these criminals. We know that with the new innovations by INEC ahead of the elections next year, you're looking at the removal, the absence of incident forms, the presence of the BVAS, which is said to be sort of a panacea to rigging, and it's all taking away the need for people to steal ballot boxes, to fill the result sheets, to print ballot papers and all that. The only people who can create a crack for corrupt politicians to rig elections will be INEC, as it stands right now. They are left and forced with the option, those who want to rig the elections, of doing things like this. Disenfranchising voters, especially in areas where they know they don't have popularity. So if I'm an APC, for instance, I don't have, this is just an example. I know that I may have fewer voters than maybe another party in Ojo, local government area. I can say, okay, hoodlums, go in and scatter things there. So like you said, we need to be proactive. And this is a reason why the authorities should be proactive, But we live in a society a country where, we don't have the standard and the recommended ratio of police to citizens. So it's a difficult one. But if it's possible, going by the manpower, because in some local government areas, you don't have more than, just a handful of policemen, police officers. In some local government areas, you don't even have a police post, not talk of a division. But if it's possible, every single INEC office should be manned. But we must also spare some words for those who did this. This is totally wrong. It's condemnable. It must be condemned, unequivocally, without mincing words. It is condemned. It's wrong, and we will call on politicians to desist from trying to, steal elections, to desist from trying to, use unearned tactics to win elections. Go and campaign to people. Tell people, what you do. Sell yourself. Sell your manifesto, and let the people decide who they want at the end of the day. Because when you, perpetuate yourself, get yourself in proper and perpetuate yourself there, when things go wrong at the end of the day, you suffer it. You may travel abroad, you may take your children abroad, but it'll catch up with them at one time or the other. Your family here. So we need to build a democracy. It's very important. I don't waste too much time. I'm sure INEC can print whichever cards have been burnt again.
No, but Kofi,
so I would like to say to those who did this, it's a waste of time, because INEC is still going to reprint the cards. I believe they will not say, okay, they burned the cards, so you guys can vote. No, INEC has a constitutional duty. It's actually the law that they must not disenfranchise any voter. So if people have registered and they have cards printed, INEC is duty bound by the law and the constitution to reprint those
But
cards.
Kofi,
So
have we also
we'll
talked about the
that.
incidents where you talk about funds not being available? No, don't forget there's also a budgetary allocation. I'm just saying we need to look at all angles. What if INEC begins to complain about we don't have enough resources in terms of funding because what has been allocated, of course you hear that what's even allocated is not enough. You have to carry out campaign sensitization and then printing out. And so was there any miscellaneous that was budgeted?
I don't know about that.
No, I'm just saying, but what if that's going to be an excuse?
That's the question, but INEC is duty bound to print those cards. Because the law says they should, they will have to find a way. There's nothing that stops them from making an
supplementary request.
A supplementary request, fantastic. That's what I was looking for. To the federal government to say.
And the federal government would say we don't have funds. But we need, like you said, Kofi, we need to move away quickly. Another not top trending is the fact that the president, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, has said that there's no going back on the planned redesign of the 1,000 Naira note, 500, 200 Naira note, adding that politicians would not be allowed to mobilize resources and thugs to intimidate voters in the 2023 general election. So there seems to be a connection with, the redesign of the Naira note and the 2023 elections. But I know that has actually gotten a lot of Nigerians talking about it. But that's the state, that's the thought of the president. Now, we remember vividly that the CBN governor had stated that there's going to be a redesign of the note. And then the Minister of Finance had also, come out. It felt like there was a disconnect. So, but the president has actually said, hey, this is what it is. It's going to stand and we're moving on.
Yeah. So the president was in London. And he, the rhyme we used to say when we were younger, we used to recite, Pussycat, pussycat, where have you been?
Been to London to see the Queen.
Pussycat, pussycat, what did you do there?
I don't remember.
All right. Frightened a little mouse under the table or something. So he was, the president sat down for an interview, media interview. It was actually a reporter, who sat with him. I think he's from Government House or he's one of those on presidential, covering, the Aso Rock Villa for one of the networks, I don't know. But he sat down with the president and he sat for an interview. There was a microphone, the reporter spoke to him. And the first thing, of note for people who've analyzed this is, the president had to travel to London to be able to tell Nigerians some things and to speak to the people. Why does he not give interviews when he's here? He does, but he does it rarely. But I will tell people, like we say in Nigerian pidgin, at all, I'm bad pass. Let's manage this one. Now, he was asked, what transpired between him and King Charles III of Britain. And of course, he said, King Charles asked him whether he has a house in London, to which he replied, no, that he doesn't have a house anywhere apart from his two houses he had before he was elected to the office of president. One in Daura, his village, and one in Kaduna. So those are the only two houses. And he doesn't want to have a house anywhere because he feels freer if he has nothing. He doesn't want too many assets. But he now said, that the reporter asked him what is his take on the Naira redesign. And the president said there's no going back. In fact, what he said specifically, he said, quote, on this change of currency, there will be a lot of money, but time has been given from October to December. 3 months is enough for whatever money you have to get it changed through the legal system. And also he said, I don't know why people are complaining about it. He says, I don't know why people are complaining about it. There's enough time for you to go and change this money. And when he was asked by the reporter, will there be a change? He says there's no going back. He was, in fact, the way he looked, if you look at how the president sounded, he was emphatic about it, and he said, no going back. He shook his head, no going back. So he seems to be really, really passionate about this. It seems he's really on board with this policy, that it's not just an Emefiele thing, as people think, The president really wants this. And he's, by his words, he also linked it to the forthcoming elections, because he said, that his aim is to ensure or to make sure Nigerians believe that we, as an administration, respect them. Says Nigerians should vote for whoever they like to vote for, whichever political party. nobody, and this is for me the thesis statement of what he said about this Naira note, nobody will be allowed to mobilize resources, and thugs to intimidate people in any constituency. I want to go down in history for this as a Nigerian leader, that I bequeathed to them a free and fair election. So he seems to be looking at this not just as a monetary policy decision, all right, by the nation's apex bank, but also as a decision that will enhance the chances of a free and fair election in Nigeria, in terms of the politicians being able to mobilize resources, mobilize thugs, probably even buy votes. It's quite interesting, and I'm very eager to see how this plays out as far as the elections are concerned. Note that some politicians have already started giving people rumors or reasons to have rumors that they have billions of naira stashed in their houses in Abuja and other places. There's one who recently came out to petition the EFCC over this whole talk of having billions of naira stashed in his house. There's another picture I saw a couple of days ago of a trailer load of allegedly, said it was 1,000 naira notes that had gotten bad, had gone bad, So time will tell. Have you been given a naira note, Messi, where the naira note seems like it's down?
It's down,
a bundle of naira notes that looks down.
Kofi, you have been sent to investigate me. Which one?
Have you been given a bundle of naira notes?
Why are you asking me that?
Okay. I hear.
I need to know.
I've seen someone.
If this is you trying to investigate me.
Yeah.
Are you trying to?
I
haven't been given.
I've seen someone hold a bundle of naira notes, and I said, "Oh boy, make I see," and I held it, okay, and it was damp, and I said, "Why is this thing damp now?" And he told me who gave it to him.
So you are finding out if I have been given.
Okay, so it's we do a lot of investigative journalism. But this is what the president said. And I think if he really, because the question is, do Nigerians believe the president? Do they believe that he's sincere and he's going to back up his words with actions? Because his party is involved in the election, and he had a few words for his party and the candidate. That is a question.
So Kofi, just quickly, because we need to also delve into the next top trending story just before we move on. The issue of whether or not Nigerians actually believe the president, trust the president, is a matter of experience, antecedents, and relation over time. If you look at it, because of what has happened, body language, actions, and what have you, there seemed to be a trust deficit, and that has happened. And that's why, if you look at the fact that for every time the Buhari's administration or this government comes to say anything, whether it's from the president or the minister, there's always a pinch of salt. People begin to cast aspersion and what have you. People begin to think twice and begin to ask a lot of questions. So trust is actually earned, it's not conferred. And that's what it is. Whether or not it's within the relationship between the government and the people, or it's the relationship between you and I, it has to be earned. And that's what it is. So it's a matter of relationship, and what is very important is trust. Now, if you say you will do something and you don't do it over time, there's always a doubt. So that's the number one case. So you say, I will do X, Y, Z for you. You don't keep up to your word. Something has actually reduced.
So question I'll ask you, yes, question I'll ask you is, how has this administration fared, being a ruling party, okay, over the last 12 to 24 months, as far as elections, because we've had elections in states that are not in the normal election cycles are concerned. Ogun State, Ekiti State, Anambra State, for example. How is it fared?
No, the thing is, it's not
because when a president is intent on rigging, we will know.
So, but really, which brings a question. For every time the president says we don't have intentions, I have to make sure that there's no rigging. Why are you stating the obvious? It's not supposed to be. We're not even supposed to have the president making such statements. We know that there's a current election, midterm election going on in the United States. Have you heard the president making statement that, we're going to ensure that there's no rigging? So it's just already sending what you're not saying. Now, what you're not saying is being felt by what you're saying or what you're doing. So for the fact that you come out to tell people that, oh, we would ensure that we deliver a credible election, shows that, there's a tendency that you might not, or there's always, it might just be in the character that the president is always involved in, the election process and maneuvering. And so it's worrisome. Should we be talking about the president? Oh, we would ensure that we deliver. Why is that? We have structures. If we have structures, there's INEC, you have different structures, then why should we be concerned? Why should we be laying emphasis on the fact that we should deliver?
Maybe so because over the years, maybe it's because it's an issue that Nigerians...
No, I'm just saying that it's telling the obvious. It's speaking about the obvious.
Yeah, I was just about to say, maybe it's an issue, because it's an issue that Nigerians are concerned about. It's been a problem in elections gone by, and people want assurances. People want to be sure that they can go out and vote, and their votes will count, because it's an issue here. It's an issue here. Maybe that's why. But I was asking, what has been because whilst you talk about the doubts and trust deficit, which is an important issue, people can also look at, for me, what has the experience been like in the recently concluded election in Ogun State, where the opposition at the national level, the People's Democratic Party, won the governorship election, and that was it. What was the experience like in Anambra State, where a party that is not at the election, won the election, and there was So the thing here in Ekiti State that was seen to be a reflection of the will of the people, despite evidence of vote.
So what we're saying now is, if you look at it, and that's why it feels like this politicians...
And I'll add Edo State, sorry.
Now, it feels like, the politicians or those who are vying for political offices are looking for new, tactics, if you want to talk about, to find a way to go about it. But one thing you have to give to this, this dispensation, or to this era, or to Nigerians now, who live in this dispensation, is there's a lot of political awareness. People are more involved in the issue of, governance, politics, and, elections. And so I think that you would give that to it to some extent. We've seen that even at the fact that, yes, the will of the people was expressed. We saw that in Imo State. We saw that. And we can actually tell what would happen. Everybody has predicted that. There might be...
I didn't mention Imo State. For reasons, obvious reasons, but Edo State, Anambra State, Ekiti State.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Anambra State. Of course, I want to talk about Soludo, but that probably would have been.
Imo State is not. Won't help my argument.
Yes. So no, not Imo State, but Anambra State elections, because I'm sure that's one election that happened, in recent times, and so the issue there is, I think that what has happened, not necessarily that anything has happened, that the people have become conscious, that people have become more involved. There's more of participation in the electoral process, and that's why we're getting what we're getting. Not to also say that there hasn't been power play. There's been a lot of tussle from here and there, but I give it to the people. The more the people get involved in politics and political process and elections, the better the outcome would be. And that's what it is.
All right. But quick one. The whole Twitter thing with Elon Musk has not escaped the attention of Nigeria's Information and Culture Minister Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who seems to have a thing for Twitter. Indeed, he has come out to give his thoughts on Elon Musk's $44 billion ownership of the global micro-blogging site Twitter, which actually doesn't have as many followers as some other, or many users as some other social media platforms, but has a lot of influence, all the same, nonetheless, rather. Well, the Minister of Culture and Information of Nigeria, he's said that Nigeria's federal government is monitoring Twitter closely under the new ownership of Elon Musk. And of course, if you remember, the federal government had banned the social media platform in 2021. We all couldn't tweet except without a VPN. The government of Nigeria claimed that it was a medium to spread fake news and hate speech in a bid to destabilize the country. And the man leading the charge on that was the man you see on your screen, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. He spoke at a news conference yesterday, and he says there is no intention of banning Twitter again. But he says since the platform has a new ownership, he'd been asked several times if another ban was coming, and he's saying no ban is coming. But we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll sit down and allow any platform whatsoever, including Twitter, to throw our nation into crisis. So we're monitoring Twitter closely. I don't know how Musk will feel about this if he hears that the Nigerian government has been monitoring Twitter since he bought it. I'm sure he feels very important.
Well, quickly, because we don't have time, two things is, I mean, since Elon Musk took over Twitter, he's been tweeting a lot. I haven't seen, and in the words of Nigerians who say he's catching cruise. But would the president, or should the presidency or the federal government be worried about Twitter and what's going to happen? Because we already have laws, in place as regards the issue of fake news and what have you. So why don't we, pay attention to all of that? We should be bothered. We should look at it. But on the other hand, I think we should be worried about how much that we will be spending, that this government will be spending, or any government will be spending, because you know that Elion has talked about the fact that for you to have the blue tick, you have to pay like $8 per month. And that's a lot. Imagine that, the Nigerian government, with all of this account, the federal government, the president's account, every government, do you know how much we budgeted for Twitter alone to just have the blue tick? That's what we should be thinking about. How much we're going to be spending, on Twitter. Another thing is how funny, he talked about the issue of, complaining about Twitter on Twitter. That's it. So for me, basically, it's that we should be concerned about whether or not this becomes an issue, because he's serious. Pay $8 per month. Imagine how much we'll be budgeting for.
Like I said, basically, I have a blue tick. I'm not paying a dime. Okay.
You're not going to pay a dime, but when Elion decides that
he should come and take his blue tick.
So he will take it, and that's it. So imagine that the government wants to have a blue tick, because
why should I pay for that blue tick? Mercy. Of all the
we're
things
not even talking about
in the country. We have to go.
That's not what we're talking about.
Let's take a break.
Imagine how much we're going to be budgeting for blue tick for government officials in Nigeria. We should be worried about how much that will be for us.
I don't think government will mind that much. Anyway,
really,
thank you very. They won't mind. We have to take a break. We'll be back with the papers. Stay with us.